So welcome back, everyone. This is another episode of the Talking Twats podcast. It's me and Matt, joined by the epic, the one and only, it's Noah. Noah, it's been a while since I spoke to you last. He is a big man in the esports community. Me and Matt have had the pleasure of commentating on him in the old ABR championships in Tier 2. And he then got promoted to Tier 1, the newly rebranded PSR. I know you're doing big things. You're going up against some big characters. How have you been? And great to have you on, man.
Yeah, I'm all right. I really am enjoying this. I didn't expect to be here at all. And yeah, as you said, I'm doing my thing, racing in BRS now, PWW, and I'm really enjoying my time. Yeah, still going with the flow, I guess. So yeah, I'm really excited for today, and I hope we won't have a big discussion this evening.
We'll try and keep it brief, but tell us your background, where you're from, who your allegiances lay with. We can see kind of from the merch we're wearing, but just get it off your chest.
Yeah, so my name is Noah. For the ones who don't know, it's Noah072 in the Xbox leagues. I'm from the Netherlands, as you might hear from my accent, and I won't say I'm a Max Verstappen fan. I'm a general F1 fan, but I'm Dutch. So yes, guys, I do sponsor Red Bull a bit. And yeah, I just really like Formula One. Just not only Formula One. I look at Formula 2, Formula 3, IndyCar, NASCAR. I just love it all. Karting as well. Yeah, in general, I'm just a big racing fan, and I like to talk about it and do stuff with it. So yeah, that's about it.
Okay, very good. So let's get into it, Matt. We've talked at length about Jeddah. I talked some nonsense, you talked some nonsense, and there's nothing else really to talk about other than Max versus Lewis, and it was a battle of the Titans. It wasn't the jewel in the desert. It was, I don't know what we're going to call this one, but it's going to go down in history as one of the most iconic battles in our generation anyway. We've seen Prost versus Senna. We've seen Lauda and James Hunt go at it. And now we're seeing this history in the making right in front of us before our own eyes. And we've just witnessed history. I think it's boiled over a long time ago. We've seen it at flashpoints throughout the season, but this one was really tough. The pressure these drivers must be going under now into these final few rounds with so much to play for, knowing there's going to be a big rig change coming up as well. Lewis Hamilton knowing that there's an 8th title on the line. Max knowing the first one is there for the taking as well. And in Jeddah, we saw a lot of incident. We saw a lot of controversy. And I think there's none bigger than that position swap is the only thing we can talk about and the subsequent penalties. So let's kick off with that, Matt. If you want to lead us through it and what your feelings are in the cold lights of day, night, whatever it is.
Yeah, so since recording the podcast we did a couple of days ago, the FIA made their decision. It didn't take them days like we were expecting. And they came out and they gave a 10-second time penalty to Max Verstappen. Whether you think that's fair or not is your opinion, and I'm sure we're going to hear plenty of those from you two in a moment. The FIA decided that Max had applied an excessive amount of brake pressure. I think they said it was 2.6 G in the end that he'd applied, and they decided that was too much, and they sort of used their fancy words to effectively call it a brake check. And Max got his 10 seconds, which interestingly enough didn't actually affect his finishing position at all. He holds on to P2, still takes 18 points. Some people have opinions on that are a bit wrong. But yeah, what do you make of it, Rich? What do you make of that 10 seconds?
I'm going to be quiet for a minute. I'm going to give Noah. I'm going to let Noah lead on this because I've said a lot about it already. I haven't differed too much, but Noah, what is your initial thoughts there about giving the position back, the whole incident, and should he be just cracked on? What was your thoughts going through that? I'm sure he was passionate in that moment.
Yeah, it was a really difficult moment, honestly, because when you're watching, we don't hear all the radio stuff behind the scenes. From my side, we heard Lambiasi, Max's racing engineer, and he told him to give Lewis the position back strategically, though. So when Max slowed down before the last corner, I was like, yeah, that's smart, because if Lewis goes past, he has the DRS and he might go back at it in turn one. Also said, I think it was 2 laps before, his engineer said the battery was topping off. So he had a really high percentage of battery. So he was using it all, I think. But yeah, as you said, it was 2.6 or 2.5 G in terms of braking power. That's quite a lot. I think just going off throttle would have been enough. But yeah, in the heat of the moment, I don't know. Lewis was quite comfortable behind Max. I think it was quite easy to follow him. So I don't know. I think Lewis wanted to stay behind him, honestly. But yeah, Max had to give the position back. I don't think Lewis knew. I don't think he knew he was trying to do it. So yeah, I think of course in the heat of the moment, I was like, what is Lewis doing? You know, if you look at it in that way, like he totally smashed in the rear of Max, and you think like, what is he doing? But yeah, now it's difficult because Lewis could have passed him easily. In the other hand, yeah, Max braked quite a bit, so it's both sides. It's quite hard. It's difficult. And yeah, I don't know what to say, honestly. Christian Horner made a really hard statement against Michael Masi as well. He told him that, no, I think it was against Sky or Sigo, I don't know. He told him that he really missed Charlie Whiting at that moment, because Charlie, I think Charlie would have made a different decision compared to Michael. But yeah, we can't change that, obviously. So yeah, I don't know. It's a really difficult situation. You can approach it from both sides, from Lewis's side, from Max's side. I don't know. I think it's a bit unlucky.
And the penalty itself, 10 seconds. Do you think that was harsh on Max, considering he gave back the position? He got a penalty, he like gave back the position. He got another 5 seconds. Then post race, you know what I mean? There was a lot going on there. There was that incident because of another incident, and then we got the penalty on top of that. I mean, there's a lot of changing things going on there. Do you think 10 seconds was warranted in that situation?
Well, if you give the reason like Max brake checked Lewis, then 10 seconds would be quite fair. Yeah, of course he had that 5-second penalty. That was for a different situation though. Like you don't have to count the 5 seconds with the brake checking situation. So yeah, I don't know. I think 10 seconds is right. Like it didn't affect his position at all. So at the end, I think it doesn't really matter for him. But yeah, I don't know. If you see it as a brake check, yeah, 10 seconds would be fair. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Although the Lewis's car is really strong, man. His front wing is really strong. He totally went into under his rear tire, and it just didn't break. That's quite fair.
I think they was ready for
Mercedes.
For a game of dodgems going into this one, and it was bumper cars all the way. Matt, in the cold light of day, I know you were saying it's not a brake check, Rich. It's Lewis's fault. He had he could have gone 3 wide, whereas when I see the aerial shots fine, I think Lewis closed up initially a bit too much, was a bit too close at that point. What's your thoughts afterwards? The 10 seconds, etc. Talk us through it.
I am. You know what? I'm going to stand by my original opinion. I will not be changing for nothing or no one. I still think that it was all just so clumsy. I don't know why. I can understand why Lewis didn't want to go past, but you'd think he would have so much sooner just got off the brake and just driven around him. Max is obviously, because Max could have been, slowing to let Lewis go, but what's to say Max at that moment didn't have a mechanical issue that was slowing him down? Again, would Lewis have just sat behind him for ages? I don't know. I still think really Lewis should have just driven around him. I think one of the issues that I think I've thought about a bit is the fact that Red Bull had obviously been told by Michael Masi, you need to give the position back, but Mercedes hadn't been told yet. I think they need to be told at the same time, because that would just eliminate the whole scenario of confusion, because you have got to factor that in, that Lewis didn't know Max was letting him through because he was told to. He was, as far as Lewis was concerned, Max just wanted to get some DRS or some weird tactic. I don't know. But for a 10-second penalty, I think I could understand it. And I guess with the data they've had, they've seen that Max applies too much brake pressure, which I understand why Max did that, but the 10 seconds therefore I think is fair. I was almost expecting it just to be left as racing instant. If I was honest afterwards, I was like sat there on Sunday night seeing that they still hadn't made a decision. I was sat there thinking, why is it taking so long? Because they're just going to say racing instant at the end of the day. But in the end, yeah, penalty to Max doesn't affect this position. So it's, as a Verstappen supporter in this title race, still win, I guess. It's not a bad thing. I assume Rich has very different opinions on the a penalty that doesn't change his position, but it is what it is.
A good segue there, Matt, because I've not differed in my opinion. If anything, I think it should have been a more severe penalty. The 10 seconds was a bit of a cop out. It was like, let's give Max a slap on the wrist, but at the same time, not compromise him too much in terms of the title fight. Let's rewind to Baku. Okay, that little incident between Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton under the safety car restart, where there's a bit of argy-bargy. I think he got a 10-second stop-go penalty in that situation there in terms of the race, which would have cost him anywhere upwards of maybe 35 seconds race time. And we know what they're like post-race penalties as well. We've seen it in Austria, the Styrian Grand Prix, where they're a bit more excessive when it comes to any breaches after the race as well. So I think they're doing it for the fans. They're doing it for the title fight, but they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're not doing it in a sense of the sporting code and what is deserved in this situation. They're giving him a penalty, but it's just a wishy-washy one, in my opinion. It was a deliberate brake check. Lewis was very cautious coming into that situation. He could see him slowing down. He was very cautious. He's been wheel to wheel with Max many times to know that he needs to make it stick and stick very well. So around this track, it's the nature of the beast as well of Jeddah. You can't see around the next corner. Lewis might not get the information. He's being extra cautious. He's a 7-time champ for a reason, and he's playing the numbers game in that situation, approaching the back of Max Verstappen. The FIA, they have a huge part to blame in that whole incident unfolding. If they have the opportunity to open both radio channels to both teams at exactly the same time and saying, this is what needs to happen, do it now and do it in a safe manner. Red Bull were very strategic with it, and Verstappen, he's a wily old fox, as they would say, a certain Brundle in particular as well. And he done what he had to do. He wants to put off Lewis as well. There's a lot of mind games as well in this title fight now. And Max, he wanted to rattle Lewis. And I just want to give credit as well to Lewis Hamilton for upholding the calmness throughout that race and for getting to the end, because there was a number of times where he could have gone out of that race. I feel that the penalty is a bit shambolic. I feel that if it was any other character, if this was a Roman Grosjean here, I feel the penalty would be a lot more severe. But because we're talking about a title fight, and yeah, all eyes on Massey, he has a lot to be answered for. I don't know what your boys think. Is he capable of governing this formula? I don't think he's up to the task. Strong words. We can't bring back Charlie. We'd love to. You know what I mean? He was one of a kind. He set the tone, but we have a stewards panel for a reason. And you can't do these things spur of the moment either.
I'll put my 2 pence in and then I'll let Noah comment. I'll just pick up on a couple of things you said there. First of all, the like Baku you said a few years ago. Yeah, there was I think that was much more deliberate from Seb. Seb picked up a stop-go that race because he felt he'd been brake tested, hadn't been, that was decided, but then Seb pulled alongside and you could clearly see there was full intentions of just crashing into Lewis because he, under safety car, pulled alongside and steered into him. I think the
to deliberately damage another car is what I'm getting at here. And this is what I feel Max has potentially tried to do. Not
Yeah,
potentially.
that's where me and you disagree, Rich. I don't think
We've
it's
shifted
intentionally
down
done at
4
all.
or 5 gears at that point and then slammed on the brakes on top of it. There's no need for it. You could just cruise. They've got a massive lead, is it?
He could cruise around if Lewis.
Intentional.
We're going to do the same as last week here. He could cruise around if Lewis drives past him, but he doesn't. He's always going to slow down more.
Yeah, but think about it, Rich. Think about it. Look at it from an esport perspective.
Okay.
If a team tells you to let someone by, so for example, my engineer tells me, Noah, there's a car behind you. You need to let him pass because you overtook him from a legal perspective. I don't know.
Off track. Well.
Yeah, off track. And it's in Jeddah on the straight, and I lift off, and the car stays behind me and lift offs as well. I'll be like, why is he not passing? So I'll brake to, like force him into that move to go by. If the car behind you brakes as well, you don't know, like, what can you do more? Because the only thing you can do is stop on track. But if the car follows you in, he'll stop in the track at the same position as well. So in that case, I think Max was like, why is he not going past, He gave him the room, but he, instead of going by, he just braked as well. And I think Max was really confused at that time because I think he instantly knew, like, he's going by, I'll get the DRS and boom, I'll get him back. But he was like, no, I'm not. I'm sticking behind Max. I think Lewis was like, no, I'm sticking behind Max. I don't want him to get the DRS, But that's just the thing. I think the FIA should be blamed for it because if the FIA told Mercedes and Red Bull at the same time, like, Max will give you the position instead of just telling only Max, I think this entire thing wouldn't happen. Because if Lewis knew, he would have gone past maybe a few corners earlier, even not in the last corner, but because Lewis and not only Lewis, Mercedes didn't know. I think that was the entire starting point from this collision already, and that's also to blame for Michael, unfortunately.
100% to blame. And like you say, if they'd opened the channels earlier, I think Lewis got told the team radio come on as he was going into the back of him. I feel like Max could have maybe pulled over, let it happen, but there's a lot of confusion. Confusion is the word of this this topic, this situation here. The FIA, they need to like really be strong on this kind of situation and say, right, you need to let him back on the start, finish straight down into turn one. Be very specific about how this is actually going to happen, because I think going into it, Lewis doesn't know what's going on. He can't see around the next corner what is happening. He might not, if Max might have had an issue as well. We don't know what is going on. So he approached it with extreme caution, and it was a lack of information, confusion, hesitation at the same time. And Lewis thought twice, I think, about going past Max. Probably because of the DRS situation as well. He's been there. He's a wily old fox as well. We've seen it at Spa with Kimi Raikkonen. And I think there's enough to say on the issue. We're going to beg to differ on that one. But confusion is the name of it. And Michael Massey, this is the problem. When you come up with spur of the moment solutions, they're not going to be perfect, okay?
Yeah.
You need to make it, plan it, let it happen, and then do it. And I hope we can learn from that as well, because we don't want to see us robbed. It was so lucky that both cars stayed in the race. It could have been a situation where, like, the two Red Bulls in Baku, where one goes into the other and they're both out of the race, for instance. But in this situation here, somehow they both managed to get to the end. We feel like Max probably got the harsher deal in terms of damage out of that one. How much damage do you think was on the back of that Red Bull in the final laps there?
I don't know. He was complaining about his tires already before the incident. So, of course, his pace was already down from Lewis. He lost, I think, 12 seconds to Lewis at the end, like quite a lot. Of course, it was a big hit, but it was on the tire, so it might have been the diffuser or something. I don't think it's the rear wing. It might be small parts. I don't know. These cars are really fragile these days. So, I don't know. I don't think it's too much. I think it affected a bit, but I don't know. I haven't seen any pictures from it or anything, so I don't know. I think he had some damage, but I don't think it was a lot.
Yeah, well, he managed to get to the end. I think the back end was a bit more, it adjusted the balance on the car. The fact that Lewis managed to start pushing out fastest laps was strange to me.
Yeah, crazy, really crazy.
But you know what it's like? If the FIA come out and say that Max brake checked him, and they have done that officially, basically, like Matt said, that is one of the most severe things you can do. So if they're going to throw them accusations out there, you've got to do it with some conviction. And for me, a 10-second doesn't cut it. If they're going to say that kind of thing, then do it proper. Do we expect to see a Mercedes protest? Because they put it in black and white pretty much that it's a brake check. Matt, do you feel that Toto and the team will go hard at this now and write to review once again and all of this nonsense that we get post-race? Will we see this again crop up?
Mercedes might have a go at saying we want to make a protest, but I don't think that will be with genuine intentions of getting anything changed. I think it will just be to make their point, because ultimately we discussed this after Brazil. I don't remember what the 3 grounds are, but there are like 3 conditions or 3 criteria you have to meet to be able to protest something. I think it's you have to have new evidence that's relevant and something other. And I don't think Mercedes will have anything to that effect. If they got denied a protest at Brazil, I don't think they're going to get one here. So they might to make a point, but end of the day, it won't come of anything.
What about you? Are you worried that Mercedes might lodge something here? And do you think they've got any grounds to do so?
Well, this entire season already is about politics and penalties, in my opinion. And that's a shame. But yeah, it's hard. I don't know. Mercedes and Red Bull have been hard to each other the entire season. So yeah, they might do. They have the right to do it. Obviously, they can if they want to. They can. I don't think they'll get a result out of it. I think the FIA will tell them this is it. This is our opinion. We gave him the 10 seconds. Good luck in Abu Dhabi, and this is it. I think they won't get anything out of it, but they can try. Yeah,
I personally think that it's a hard one to call. If you give him a 30-second penalty, he's going to finish all the way behind Ricciardo and something like that. They don't want to disrupt the title fight. If you were sensible, you thought about it a bit more, you might give him a 3-place grid penalty, because Max is going to come through the pack and still manage to attack for the race win. But I feel like it was a bit like, I'm not worried about upsetting Noah versus Snipes, or this kind of relationship with the drivers. Like, you feel that it's just a bit too soft, no?
Yeah, I can understand your point. I think they shouldn't be deciding penalties based on, I don't want to disrupt the title race, because that's just not on at all. Your penalties should be the same no matter what.
Yeah.
End of the day, because I think you said it last week. I think in the midfield they always seem to be a bit more harsh and a bit more straight to the point, because for them it doesn't matter. But at the front it gets so controversial so quickly. So they maybe are always a bit more lenient and a bit more don't want to take it to an extreme.
Yeah, and I feel the FIA have made a rod for their own back. I mean, it's been going on a while. They've been let them race is the topic of discussion. But okay, if they let them race, smash each other off the track, so be it. But it's got to that point, and that's where the emotions and everything have come into check. Going back to throughout the season, what are the key battlegrounds? Bahrain. We kicked off in Bahrain. That could be huge in terms of this final round. Max Verstappen was, I would say, squeezed. Lewis gave him absolutely no room around the outside. He overtook off the circuit, was ordered again. What was your thoughts, if you can think back to that moment, chaps? And was it right? Was it wrong?
I don't know. I think he did, in terms of respect to each other and respect to the FIA. I think Max did the right thing. If you think about Max's opinion, I think Max was right as well. Like, he was like, just leave me alone. I'll drive away. If I get that 5-second time penalty, I don't give a shit. I'll be second, but I finished first. I think that's more important to him. And yeah, he was really unlucky at that time. He went around the outside, had an oversteer, I think, as well, and went off track. He overtook him off track. So in my opinion, I told my parents at that time as well. Like he overtook him off track, so it's a fair game from FIA and from Red Bull as well to tell Max to let Lewis go. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, what was your thoughts on that situation? Should he have done it or just drifted off to the distance? Because I felt at that point, just push Max. You've got the pace.
Yeah, and in hindsight, he probably should have done because he didn't get another chance to make the move. So yeah, in hindsight, he should have just taken the penalty and got on with it. I think it's a weird sort of similarity, isn't it, between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia in the sense of having to let someone through. And I think that's why Red Bull told Max in Saudi to do it strategically, because in Bahrain they did it just at a normal point and it cost him the race. He wasn't able to have another go at Lewis. So yeah, I think Bahrain, like Noah said, the overtaking off track, it was a bit borderline. I think I heard Lando Norris say that actually he didn't think he should have had to give the place back because he'd already pulled ahead and pretty much completed the move and then got oversteer, which sent him wide. But I think you're getting again too close to it being a dodgy opinion there. I think it was just a straight you tried to go around the outside and you have ended up fully off the track by a fair margin. It's just give the place back and try again. But it's going to be crucial, that race, isn't it? Because that was a 14-point swing. And right now, had Max pulled off that move, he'd be 14 points clear in the final race, could very easily be his championship. Now we're in a scenario where it could so easily go either way.
And what is the specifics of this rule? When you do let the car pass, Max, we saw that Lewis was penalised 2008. You was correct on the last podcast against Kimi Raikkonen, where he thought he'd done enough to let the car through, but immediately overtook him down the subsequent corner. Do you need to allow the car ahead for a corner, or do you know the specifics around it? Because I know you're quite good with this kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know what it is specifically, unfortunately. I think I've heard before somewhere that it has to be 2 corners you have to stay behind. I think I've seen it before where it's only been 1. But I think the clear thing is, to me, in all cases, you have to let them get ahead and not gain an advantage off of where you've done it. So, for example, you can't just dive bomb them straight away into the next corner. That's clear cut. You're not allowed to do that. And I think it would have been a bit dodgy had in Saudi Max let Lewis go and then DRS back past him, because he would have gotten the DRS based on where he'd let Lewis go. So that could have got messy as well. But as far as I'm concerned, you need to let them get ahead and not gain an advantage off of where you've done it.
So another grey area, we need to clear this up. You know, if we're going to let them race and swap positions, if something's not fair, I think they need clear guidance that you need to let them pass, take the next corner. I know some corners in F1, like turn 1 at Russia, aren't exactly corners, but, you know, we've got to put something in place, whether it's a sector, whatever it is, or, you know, give them a certain amount of delta time back, whatever it could be. But, yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. But the next flashpoint in the season is Imola, that they come together again. And this was a topic for the rest of the year down at turn 1. I think that one was a pretty innocent situation. We had the wet conditions, intermediate tires. Try and pick your braking spot. You know what it's like, lads. You know what it's like, Noah. Was there anything in that one?
No, I think no, I don't think that's. No, I think the FIA did the right thing there. Max was ahead, maybe with a really tight margin, but he was ahead. It was his corner. Yeah, maybe Imola has to change that corner. Maybe with a how do you call it? When you go wide, like AstroTurf on the outside, maybe instead of gravel. Yeah, I don't know. I think Lewis was unlucky. Max did the right thing. A bit cheeky, but yeah, it was his corner. So at the end, I don't think it was anyone to blame. I think Max won fair and square, honestly. And Lewis made that mistake as well mid-race while passing the Williams, I think it was. Yeah, so I don't know. I think Imola was a fair race, and Max won it on his own power. So, yeah.
No, definitely had the pace that weekend. And Lewis was once again sensible enough to, when he saw it happening, pull out of the situation. And maybe he's made a rod for his own back throughout the season. Whenever Max comes to him, he's not going to stand there and say no. He started to do it, but it's a bit too late in the season for me. I wanted to see a bit more cojones from the 7-time champ for this one, but he's got a lot of experience behind him. Matt, I know you're a big fan of that Imola race and how much Lewis benefited from it.
I do like to talk about Imola. I think Imola was just an interesting race, wasn't it? I think the turn one isn't, like say, perfectly fair in my opinion. That is where let them race comes into it. That's where let them race is. That's what we want. That was cheeky from Max, but I don't think there was anything wrong with it. Then like Noah says, Lewis later on the race slid off the road and he had damage. He was about to be a lap down and he was saved by a red flag. Not much we could do about it. I remember joking at the time about, isn't that convenient how Lewis's teammate and another Mercedes junior driver bring out the red flag that saves Hamilton. I mean, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not part of the great Ferrari master plan or anything like that. But I think Max won that race fair and square, and Lewis got a lucky way back into it to bring himself back up to second.
So that's what's going to segue into the next topic is we saw it happen again at Jeddah. We saw a number of drivers lose out because of the red flag situation. You can replace tires, you can repair the car. What do we think on that? I'm not a fan of it. It does rob innocent parties who have had a genuine good qualifying, good start to the race. We saw that again in Jeddah. Both the Mercs decided to box, and I think Lando Norris as well. There was a number of cars that lost out hugely in that situation. Do we just remove the tyre element or the repairing of the car? Do we still stay in parc ferme? You can't touch the cars. What's your thoughts, boys? I'll start with Noah. What do you think on that red flag situations?
Well, the red flags were, in my opinion, I think it was a good choice. Of course, the barrier was damaged. In a corner where we saw a Schumacher, we saw Leclerc, even in the Formula 2 series, people went off there. So I think it was the right decision to give that red flag to repair that barrier. Safety first, of course. But really a good timing for Max. Of course, he stayed out on the old medium tires. A bit unlucky for the Mercedes cars and Perez as well. Who boxed after the Mercedes. He ended up P8, I think. So people lost out. People won a lot of places because of the red flag. I don't think it should be allowed to touch the car in terms of parts, in terms of maybe your front wing, but not change any front wing. So if you change the front wing, it has to be the same front wing, not the front wing with more or less aerodynamic parts on it. Same for the rear wing. But in terms of tires, I think, the FIA likes to give the standing starts of the red flag. So I think new tires would be fair, but don't touch the car. If they leave the car as it is, but change the tires, I think that would be fair.
And Matt?
I was discussing this with my dad after the race, and I said then, and I'll say it again now, I think the problem is in the ruling, the way the rules are written. There's no mandatory pit stop in Formula One like people say there is. The rule is you have to use 2 compounds of dry tire, which always results in a pit stop, except for when you can get a free pit stop, because it's not really a pit stop under the red flag. I think I said to him, there's a nice easy fix to that. You just change the rule so that you have to do a mandatory pit stop. So then you can change the tires all you want under red flag. You can do what you like to the car, but you still at some point in the race have to come into the pits. And what Max can't do what he did in Saudi and effectively get away with not having to make a pit stop all race.
Yeah, we've seen, Lewis, he benefited from it. If we go back to Imola, like you say, he managed to do extensive repairs to the car, change the tires as well, which was also fundamental in his comeback in that Grand Prix. I feel like the tires, you can leave it. It's fair for everyone in that case. The damage, like Noah says, no more clicks or changes to the aero balance on the car, stuff like that. Only do what you can do in a normal pit stop. So if you can change the front wing, fine. I mean, maybe there needs to be another ruling, because if you have a catastrophic start, like we've seen in Spa in the past and multiple cars off on lap 1, you don't want to rob the fans of having a half the grid out the race potentially. But yeah, it's a grey one. It's a tough one. It's like rolling the roulette wheel. You're going to land on red or you're going to land on black. And yeah, a few drivers lost out in that one. But something for them to consider. Obviously, don't change it for the next race. It needs to be fair for the whole season. But I'd like to see them scrap the tyre change for next season. And there'll be big changes next season anyway in terms of the fundamentals of our sport. But yeah, that was Imola. There's so many events going on this year. Let's talk about Silverstone. This might be a touchy one for a certain Noah in his Red Bull cap. We saw in the sprint race. Well, let's go back to qualify. Lewis pulled out a surprise pole position at the DEF on the Friday night with the sprint series format. Saturday, coming down into Stowe, it was Lewis versus Max. Lewis knew that he had to try and defend on that lap. Max done him around the. Lewis tried to go around the outside. I think it was on the sprint race, and Max sort of like crowded him out at that point, and fairly gained the position. So yeah, that led us into Sunday. Noah, talk us through that.
I'm just going to say Lewis is to blame. No, yeah. From the start until like when the red lights came off, chaos was already happening. Everywhere, cars wheel banging, Lewis and Max going side by side the entire time. Max defending on the limit in sector 1 already. So it was really, yeah, I don't know. I still think Lewis is to blame because he left a lot of space on the apex. Later in the race, he had the same moment with Charles Leclerc, and he gave enough room to Charles, and they went through. So yeah, I don't know. I think Lewis is to blame because yeah, he had enough room to give Max the room. Max also went really tight. But yeah, I don't know. Again, in my opinion, it was a racing incident. But if they want to be consistent, I think they could have given Lewis a bigger penalty than that. Yeah. I think they gave him a 10-second penalty as well, or a stop and go penalty, and he easily recovered. I think he won even. Yeah, he won. So yeah, I don't know. I think the penalty could have been a bit more race changing, but yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, Matt, I know you're gonna enjoy that one.
Yeah, I think first I'll just comment. I think the penalty for Lewis, I think his penalty was fair. I think they can't go giving penalties that impact someone's race more because of where they are. They kind of just have to give a certain penalty for a specific incident. That's the same with Max in Saudi. They can't give him a bigger penalty because it punishes him, or they kind of had to decide on the penalty for that incident, and if it affects him or not is up to him. But yeah, like Noah said, the racing on that first lap of the Grand Prix was already so aggressive and so on the verge of a crash. I thought they were going to crash on a straight going down to Wellington. They were so close. I watched it thinking they're going to hit each other. They're going to hit each other, and it's going to be the most embarrassing crash because it's on a straight. But yeah, Lewis had learned from the sprint. That was the key thing. He tried to go around the outside in the sprint, and it hadn't worked. And if you watch it, you'll see Lewis in the Grand Prix. He starts to move left, and then he goes straight back to the right because he knows that if he goes to the left, it's just a repeat of the day before, and he'll be stuck behind the whole Grand Prix. Lewis knew he had to get it done. He went for it, and ultimately, in a way, he did get it done. But I'm guessing not the way he planned to, although it did work out quite nicely for him.
Yeah, he learned from the Saturday. He tried to dummy him into a false sense of security, thinking he was going around the outside. Yeah, it was very borderline. I was sitting on the entry to Stowe on that particular race, and the difference I feel from the Charles Leclerc overtake was that Max was like right in the center of the circuit, trying to hold Lewis. You know, the racing line is on the left, you know, to maximize the angle into the corner and carry as much corner speed. And by doing so, that made Lewis's angle of approach even more tighter. Again, was the move on? Probably not. Full tanks, you know, and everything in the grand scheme of things. Now, do we agree that the penalty should be based on the contact itself or the outcome? Because we saw that was a race-ending situation and a hefty bill as well for the Red Bull team. So do we feel that that needs to be looked at as well, that there might have to be more severe repercussions in terms of the outcome, or should it just be based on the incident, which currently is, boys?
Yeah, I think it should be based on the incident itself, not particularly the outcome. Because if you hit someone at that speed in that type of corners, you will crash and you will end up in the barriers. That's just a fact. At any circuit, not just Silverstone. But yeah, you have to be smart in these moments. Christian Horner told it as well. Like you can't overtake in that corner with these speeds. Well, you can, but it's so risky. And Lewis went for it, and it ended up really bad for Max, of course. I think it should be based on the incident itself and the time before, and not the outcome, because you can't change the outcome when it already happened. So, yeah,
Matt,
what do you think about it, Matt?
Yeah, I fully agree with Noah. It's the incident that matters, not the outcome of it. You could have so easily had a very similar collision between Verstappen and Hamilton on that day that maybe ended up in them both going out. And in that case, well, you still need to look at the incident the same and apply. I know if Lewis went out as well, they can't give him a 10-second, but apply the equivalent of that in a grid penalty. You know, you can't look at the outcome and decide, oh, actually, that needs to be a stop and go because he went out, when in another scenario, maybe Max carried on, then, we'll give a 10-second. So it's the incident that matters.
Okay, yeah, I just thought we'd visit it because for some of our viewers, they might not exactly know the full ins and outs, and I thought it was just something to look at. The 10 seconds, it didn't hinder Lewis in that fight. He was really riled up. He knew he had the penalty. He was on home turf, and it was one of the great comebacks that he does. And around Silverstone, he just pulls out some epic the lap time. And poor Charles Leclerc, he thought he could bring that one home, and it wasn't quite to be, unfortunately. And we moved on, and that wasn't the last flashpoint of the season. What else did we have in store, Matt?
We had so many flashpoints in the season. I'm going to bring up Hungary because I like to bring up Hungary for the absolute travesty that was turn one. Another key point in the title race in terms of Lewis being on pole, getting away cleanly and being able to drive away from it, while Max, who was starting P3, wasn't he? He's behind Bottas on the grid. Bottas away slowly, lost out to even Norris as well. Max and Checo and Norris all in the wrong place at the wrong time, and Bottas showing perhaps why he's not the world champion that Lewis Hamilton is, and maybe why he's not going to be driving the Mercedes next season, because it was an absolute shit show at turn one.
Yeah.
It was a shit show. It showed why he's the perfect number 2 for Lewis as well, doing the damage that he doesn't have to do. I'm sorry, I had to say it. All jokes aside, it was terrible. Max, half a car, Noah. What a performance it was from him.
Yeah.
You know, that car would have been retired on, 99 out of 100 times in most other, garages. But, wow. We saw Lewis on the grid by himself.
Yeah.
On the intermediates. Let's not forget about that. Let's talk about Max's drive there, because he done well too. Did he get himself into the points? Where exactly did he finish at the end of that?
He finished I think it is P8. Let me look it up actually. I think it was P8 or he passed the Haas cars. I know that.
And who won the race? I can't even think.
Oh, it was Esteban Ocon. Wasn't that nice? Great drive from Esteban.
Let me see. It's Hungary P1 Ocon, 2 Lewis, 3 Sainz. That's really good. 4 Fernando Alonso, 5 Pierre Gasly, 6 Tsunoda, 7 Latifi, 8 Russell, 9 Max Verstappen, and 10 Kimi Raikkonen. Also really good in Alpha. Yeah, first of all, I really agree with Matt about Bottas. I think when it happened, the first thing I thought was, this is a rookie mistake. You're on the outside, no, the inside line, sorry. It's dirty, it's wet. There are cars in front of you. There's a lot of spray, and he just braked a lot of meters too late, and he just hit Lando. He had a really good start, Lando, by the way. He did a really, really good job in the McLaren there. And yeah, both Checo and Max really unfortunate. And Lewis again, the lucky one. Daniel also was the lucky one for a few seconds, and then he got hit by, I think it was Lance Stroll. Also an idiot. I don't know what he was doing, but he made the same mistake as Valtteri. So yeah, I think Valtteri will do a great job at Alfa Romeo, honestly, but no, I don't think he's Mercedes worth material. After Hungary, I think that was the point where Toto Wolff also thought, like, this is it. We can't change it anymore. Valtteri, yeah, it was his mistake, and this is it. But yeah, Max, half a car. I think, yeah, he drove with one side pod. The other one was gone. Yeah, of course, the red flag helped a bit there as well. We talked about it, of course. They were touching his car. I think they removed all the elements from his right side. I think they removed all the end plate stuff. Yeah, I think that helped in terms of drag, maybe, but yeah, P9 with a damaged car. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. He lost a big amount of points, but yeah, you have to think about it, of course, as a racing driver. If you're in a car with these speeds, with 50% of your car working, I think P9 is a really good job.
No, it was a great driver. I call that one of the champion drives as well, because he showed what he was all about in that race. In order just to persevere and bring it home, a lot of people would have given up in that situation. And wasn't it that race where on the way to the grid as well, he was into the barrier? I think that.
No, the last year, yeah, the year before.
The year before, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, similar conditions, wasn't it? There's sort of like a drying track. Mercedes as well, they could have had an extra 7 points easily in the bag in that race if it wasn't for a tactical mishap, and very unlike Mercedes as well. The ruling would have been very interesting if everyone had boxed on the formation lap, come in, change the tires, because we would have seen changes of position, but not under green flag conditions. We briefly spoke about it a bit more, Matt, but what would have been the outcome in that situation? The Mercedes has the first box. So if Lewis is going to box, this is why I think they didn't do it. He would have had to wait for the snake to come through, no?
Yeah, it's would have been unfortunate for them. Like you say, had he boxed, everybody else would have had to drive past, and Lewis would have been stuck in the pits for a long time, and he could have lost out big positions. I mean, in the end, he lost all the positions anyway because he boxed a lap later than anyone else. And like you say, it would have been really interesting to see the procedure had everybody come in. I mean, I think the red lights would have still gone on, I think, on track, and then gone out for no one, and then just at the same time, the green light goes on at the end of the pit lane. But like you say, it's then when there are position changes, well, they've technically not happened under racing conditions, which is a weird concept. And I don't know how they would have dealt with that, whether they would have sent them all out on another formation lap and told them get back in the order you were. I don't know. It would have gotten very messy. So maybe we should just thank Mercedes for keeping Lewis out there and avoiding that one. But yeah, a blunder for Lewis cost him points.
Yeah, big blunder, and he lost out in terms of points. He thought it was his lucky day with his championship rival all the way out there. But yeah, I think that's the one that needs to be revisited. Again, just a grey area. Should you be able to change tyres, or do you just go and then pit on lap one, see everyone barrel into the pits? You know, Lewis would have come out maybe 15th or whatever, but it is what it is. So yeah, Hungary, we've had so many flashpoints. We've had Baku as well. Max Verstappen absolutely dominating that race. The car was in its prime that it's been all season, and absolutely dominating. Sergio looking strong as well, and Pirelli playing their part in this championship.
For sure. I think that was heartbreak for any kind of Red Bull fan out there. I'm sure Noah can testify to that. It was horrible. This was back in when the Red Bull was really strong. They've got the limbo wing at this point, don't forget. And they are running 1-2, and Lewis, he was there in P3, but he lost both positions to the Red Bulls in the pit phase. And it didn't look like he was making any inroads. He was just sat behind Checo for the longest time. And I think had the incident not happened, that's how they would have finished. Max P1, Checo P2, Lewis P3. In the end, Pirelli's tyres had something to say about that. We saw 2 tyre failures, both in the same place. in that race. I don't remember what the explanation was. Did they find cuts on the tires, or was it like a structural failure? I don't know.
Let me search it up.
Yeah, I do believe it was cuts in the tire, but once again, once you look that up, Lewis really got it wrong. Getting a bit too eager off the restart. That was the sprint race of all sprint races. Remember, what was it? 2 laps to the end or something, and we had a standing start. I mean, this season has delivered so much. We take it for granted, all of these races. But yes, Lewis had the brake magic on, but it wasn't magic for him because it was a bit of maybe black magic as well on the car. And locked up, went off the track, and that was it. Sergio Perez was the man ready to pounce. And I think the entire F1 field, if Max wasn't going to win it, then a deserved winner was Checo Perez in that. You find anything on that one, Noah?
Well, I think Checo was really lucky there at the end because Lewis touched the switch, if I'm correct, while starting. That changed his brake bias, I think. So yeah, he locked up, of course. I think Perez was lucky because he wouldn't have won it there. Perez also lucky with the engine failure just after the line. So yeah, I think Red Bull was a bit lucky there. But they had a strong race. So at the end, I think if Max was still there, that they would have got a P1 too. So I don't think it changed anything. I've got the official Pirelli format here as well about the tire failures. The failures were not caused by a production fault, nor the elimination. It went on revealed that the blowouts were instead caused by a circumferential break on the inner sidewall of the tires rather than being the result of a cut from debris. So, okay.
I'm still none the wiser, but thank you anyway.
Yeah, same. It was some sort of a tire failure, but yeah, really unlucky. But yeah, you can't change it, of course. But Red Bull was really strong at that time, and again about around Baku. So yeah, great stuff from the Red Bull crew in Baku.
Yeah, and that next one to talk about would have to be Monza after that. Monza, the Mercedes, it looked like it's their kind of day. And all the stars aligned, Matt, because they shouldn't have found themselves together on track, should they?
No. Monza was a race that a lot of scenarios happened that all sort of everything aligned to the incident that was Hamilton and Verstappen coming together. You can stem it right back to the sprint race. Bottas obviously won the sprint, but then took his 20 place grid penalty for part changes, so he had to drop to dead last on the grid. And in the sprint, it's worth noting that Mr. Hamilton, despite starting, I think, on the front row, got a horrible start and fell right back behind the two McLarens, which again would be crucial for the result on Sunday. Lights out and away we go. Verstappen on pole somehow at Monza. If you told me that Max was going to get pole at Monza going into the weekend, I'd have told you, you're wrong. But it was the case. Ricciardo took the lead early on, and then Hamilton. I seem to remember he was on different tires to everyone else, so he was kind of just sat behind to start with, just doing his own thing. And the pit stop phase came for everyone else, and Lewis with his tires still alive. That's when he knew his time was to bolt, and he went for it. He passed Norris. Of course, Red Bull, normally so good in the pits, didn't deliver. Max had a slow stop. Lewis had to come in at that point because they knew, sure, we can keep you out long and give you the fresh tyres at the end to pass Verstappen, or we could also just pit now and come out ahead of Verstappen anyway. So they brought him in, messed up their own pit stop, came out wheel to wheel with Mr. Verstappen, and lo and behold, they came together. The first time they'd gone wheel to wheel since Silverstone, and they crashed again. Whose fault was it? I think racing incident, but more on the shoulders of Verstappen. I think only because from Max's onboard, I think you could see it was coming. I think from the moment they sort of just get out of turn one, you could see, that bit of space you're trying to drive into, Max, it's about to disappear. And it did. I think Lewis, yes, he didn't leave a car's width. Max was a fair way alongside, maybe could have been entitled to a bit more space, but I still think Max should have seen that coming. gotten out of it. Maybe he thought there was a calculated risk in there. Who knows?
Noah?
Yeah, I don't know. I can see why Max went for the gap. I can also see why Lewis pushed him around the outside that harsh. Yeah, I think it's a racing incident, as Matt just said. But yeah, it's more Max's fault. But I think a racing incident would be a fair fair word for this one. I don't know. I think it's again a really unlucky situation for both of them. Max sees the gap, he goes for it, and they collide. Yeah, who knows? I don't know. Lewis did the right thing. I guess Max also tried it and it didn't work. So yeah, I don't know.
This is
What do you
where
think about it?
this is why I completely differ, because every time that Max does squeeze Lewis, we see Lewis, he jumps out of the way. He reads the situation. He does it early enough to try and avoid them both ending the race. And I think that was Max's turn to kind of do it and maybe cut across the corner a bit earlier, live to fight another day, and give us the great battle that we deserve. But instead, he ended up on top of Lewis's crash helmet. That could have been so much worse. Thank God we had the halo as well. Otherwise, it could have been a lot worse situation. But yeah, I'd have to edge on Max's fault there. He just needs to learn. It will come in time, but I think he should be mature enough after fighting at the front this long to know a bit better in that situation. Hopefully he learns from it in the coming years as well. But yeah, we move on. Drama again. And it was one of them which it's just going to be on the highlight reel this season, 2021. It's delivered huge drama and excitement, and it's brought so many new fans to the sport as well. It gets the sort of average person in the street. Did you see that yesterday? What actually happened? And it captivates the minds of the younger audience as well, I'd say. But it wasn't over after Monza. We headed into where was the next flashpoint? Wouldn't it be Brazil after that?
I think the next, I would guess the next like major point would be, I mean, you can talk about Russia a little bit, but I think between the two protagonists, the next big point was Brazil.
Yeah, so we have 100% strike rate. The sprint races definitely deliver some action, some drama. We've seen Silverstone, Monza, and now Brazil, both of them coming together and having an incident on the circuit. And yes, we saw Mercedes, Lewis's car get disqualified, wasn't it, after the pole position? That was the huge thing there. But nothing to argue, really. They failed a test, which has always been there. It wasn't anything new that they tried on the car. It was the same component they've used in previous rounds, and it was a component that failed, like one of the bolts or something, the construction of the rear wing. And they was trying to protest it because we've seen Red Bull change bits on their rear wing, but they still met the requirements. So looking at it now, all is fair in love and war. The penalty stood. But that wasn't the only penalty going into that race, because we got the spicy engine out in the Mercedes that weekend.
Yeah, Mercedes brought on their new parts, the spicy engine. I don't know if it was an upgraded engine or if it was the same as the one before, just a new version of it, which obviously gave Lewis some insane straight line speed. And that's something that's followed him in the following rounds. We saw it again in Saudi Arabia, just when they put that engine back in, just how fast he was down the straights every single time, gaining on the Red Bull ahead of him. Lewis, like you say, he started from the back of the sprint, but got on a great drive through the sprint, recovered to P5, took his 5th place grid drop for the new engine in the race, started P10, but again, it didn't take him long to be up in P3. I think by lap 6, he was already there in 3rd. So it was a solid drive from him. And then things escalated from there. The defense of Checo was great until it wasn't, and he got past. I don't think Checo could have done much in the end when it happened. I think he had to use a lot of battery on the lap before to keep Lewis behind. So it was inevitable. And then we had the 1v1, Lewis versus Max, for the rest of the race. I'll allow someone else to talk about the controversy that then follows.
I've already spoken about it. So Noah, tell us your thoughts on that defensive. Was it a masterclass? Was it over the line?
At some points a masterclass and some moments over the line. and that's been Max's issue the entire season, in my opinion. He has moments where he's defending like a king, and he has moments where he's defending like a rookie. So yeah, I don't know. When Lewis and Max went off track, I think it was turn 5, I think it is, turn 5 at the end of the straight. Yeah, that was Max to blame, obviously. 1, 2, 3, 4. Turn 4.
We'll go with 4.
Turn 4. Yeah, he he left so much room on the apex and they both went off. At the end, it didn't matter because Lewis got past him. So yeah, I don't know. Mercedes was the quicker car around Brazil, and they showed it and they delivered. So, in my opinion, a really good race from I think everyone, honestly, and everyone tried, and Mercedes won it. So yeah, it was a really nice race.
Yeah, it was a good race. Hard defending. But, it crowded both of them off the circuit. And that's why the FIA felt like because both cars left the circuit, it wasn't just Lewis getting pushed out there. There was a bit of a grey area once again. And it opened that can of worms. But it set a tone. A lot of the drivers came out in the subsequent interviews and said, well, if that is how we can race, you can bet your bottom dollar. Anytime I've got a car on my outside, I'm just going to make out that I've got understeer and I'm just going to start to slip off there. And it's a dangerous precedent to set, which was my strong opinion, not just for F1, but for F2, you know what I mean? And for the subsequent divisions that, you can't let a car around the outside. It's not a potential overtaking maneuver and it's going to rob us of a lot of racing. So, yeah, it was a flashpoint for me. I feel like they should have come down harder on it, but it is what it is. We move on. Bottas in the sprint race done well. I feel he went wanting in terms of the feature race, if you want to call it, the main event on the Sunday, and he hasn't lived up to the hype this year. Bottas, when the going's got tough, he's got going, and I think that's why he's lost his seat coming into next year and is demoted, shall we say, to the Alfa Romeo team. But yeah, that led us all the way to Jeddah. Jeddah, as a spectacle, man, it delivered. I mean, it's dominated the newspapers. I've never seen so many column inches and so many things on social media, such debate, but not for the right reasons at the same time. It's not that, well, Max, he had some great moves in the race as well. Let's not forget that move, the double move on Ocon and Lewis, when he went balls to the wall. He went flying up the inside, and that was Max at his absolute best. It was, but there was other times where you could see the pressure on his shoulders, the young man from his father, from the Red Bull hierarchy as well. Not Christian in particular. He's a good father figure, I think, but everyone's on the bandwagon. He can't do anything wrong in his team, and it's led to this sense of entitlement when it comes to overtakes, and pushed a bit too far on a few occasions to get the move done. We'd like to see him go wheel to wheel for a sector, but it never happens. As soon as they get close, it's someone's going off. And yeah, a few questionable moves for me. One brilliant move, an absolute one of the moves of the season. Matt, how would you rate Max's performance in Jeddah and some of the wheel to wheel with Lewis?
Max is hard to rate in Jeddah, isn't he? Because it was, like you say, there was both ends of the spectrum. There was some racing that was absolutely spot on. There was some other bits which were a bit like, yeah, that's a bit over the line there, Max. I think he's driving with the pressure on his shoulders, not necessarily of, oh, he's in a title fight for the first time. There's so much pressure. I think it's more the pressure of he's almost been the favorite for a while. Not the favorite in terms of he is the underdog going against the 8-time world champion, but he has been the guy sort of leading the way. The Red Bull has arguably been the better car through the season. And I think that these past sort of 3-4 races, we've seen that switch. Mercedes definitely got the upper hand. And I think Max knows that. And I think he knows that in sort of one of these last 4 races, he needs to deliver something special. I think ever since Mexico, where Mercedes sort of from Brazil onwards then have had the advantage, he's known that the gap he'd built up after Mexico it's one race short in terms of points to be able to just sort of finish second for the rest of the season. He knew that in one of these last 4, he needed to deliver a victory. And you saw him try for that so hard in Brazil, couldn't get close enough in Qatar, and then again in Saudi. First with the qualifying lap that was almost the lap of legends, and then was one corner short, and then in the race again, fighting so hard because he knows that he needs to get just one more win in this season and the title is his. And it's now gone down to the final one of the season.
Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah, that's just the thing this season. Like Max, I think he knows he's the only one who's able to compete with Lewis this season. Valtteri can't, Checo can't. Of course, the other cars are just too slow. So he knows he's the only one who's able to win this championship, and he lives and drives in Formula One to win. And he's not here to be second. So he wants to win. He needs to win. He knows. And he's making some brilliant moves, but unfortunately also moves that cost him, that will cost him some races. And that's just the problem with him at the moment. But I think he really tried around Jeddah. He really tried. He did his best. But again, Mercedes was quicker, and that's been the sentence like 50% of the season. Mercedes is getting quicker and is quicker, in fact. And I think Max is trying to push everything out of it, but I don't know. I think Abu Dhabi will be more intense than Jeddah. I think, in terms of politics, in terms of driving, I think Abu Dhabi will be even more chaotic than Jeddah. Honestly, I'm really scared.
Oh, you're not the only one, trust me. That's scared about that. I feel that, the problem with Max is he knows that if Lewis doesn't finish that race,
Lewis
he's crowned world champion. No, I'm talking about Jeddah, going into that race. Yeah. He knows that if he forces Lewis into a mistake, and we saw that in a number of times, he tried to force Lewis into a mistake, whether it be the brake check, was it not? Was it pushing him wide, pushing him to his absolute limits, trying to rattle him, get inside his head? We saw it all play out over team radio. He's not leaving 10 cars. Then Lewis, always doing a practice start in the pit lane. I mean, it's all in the mind games now. And they're all like crying to the teacher, especially the team principals, for every like inch that they can gain in this title fight. But we're going to go into the final round. It's going to be, the gloves are off. And if it does end up with them both, I was going to say beached, but there's no gravel there. They're going to both end up in the barrier, or one of them with damage to the car. It will be on count back in terms of race wins. And let's hope it's not a major incident where we have to discuss it and maybe, demote someone in terms of championship order. I don't know if that is possible, or they'd have to disqualify if someone does try and make a rash move in this final race. Big changes to the circuit, and I feel that's only going to favor one team, boys. Surely Mercedes will be stronger at Abu Dhabi this year due to the changes that are being made, especially coming into that first DRS. You carry a lot of speed, heavy braking, the back straight, and then also the end of the second DRS. That is a beautiful corner there. You can carry so much speed. I think we're going to have some good racing potentially, Matt, at the 90-degree, less central circuit of Abu Dhabi.
You have just jinxed it, haven't you, saying we might have some good racing? No, we have terrible racing. I think it's going to be, like I say, it definitely favours Mercedes, the changes. I think even in the last sector where they've sort of made it a bit more drivable, they've sort of opened up a couple corners, made them more on camera. I think that will benefit the Mercedes as well. And I think that in terms of, there is major potential for them to crash into each other in this final race. They say they can't demote people in terms of championship position. They would have to disqualify from the championship. It has been done before. Michael Schumacher was disqualified from the 97 season for his collision with Jacques Villeneuve in the final race. That was Michael deliberately turning into Jacques Villeneuve mid-corner to try and win a world championship. Didn't work out for him that day. Villeneuve was the champion. I think the problem you've got is it would have to be so clear-cut for that to happen. It would have to be so clear that it would be Max doing it, obviously, because he's the championship leader. But it would have to be so clear that Max has deliberately done something and has full intentions the whole time of taking out Lewis. Because as soon as there's any debate about it, to disqualify someone from a championship and take the championship away from Verstappen would be such a huge thing to do, so controversial. If it wasn't just a clear cut, well, he has clearly just driven into him. In all fairness,
Lewis.
So there's
It
definitely, yeah, it could be Lewis, but it's a lot less likely because Lewis knows that if neither of them score, he's not going to be the world champion. He has to outscore Verstappen here. If neither score, Max wins it on countback, like you say. So if Max does it, it will be calculated. And it's horrible that it would have to be calculated because that means that Max would have to have thought about it in advance. And as soon as that comes into it, the sportsmanship is all gone out the window. And I hope that Max hasn't thought about if it comes down to it, would he crash into him? And it's hard to do at Abu Dhabi as well. There's no, like you said, there's so much runoff.
Yeah.
It's going to be very difficult to actually put someone out the race if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the track layout now is, I think, in favor of Mercedes. Indeed, I fully agree with that. They deleted the chicane, of course, in the first sector, turn 5. That's one straight now. They removed the chicane after the second straight. That's one sweep, I think, one left-hander now. And they opened up turn 14, I believe. So yeah, Mercedes will be really strong. Although Max won last season. So Red Bull knows what to do around this track, in all honesty. So I think it will be, one heck of a race. I hope these two will keep it clean. And I hope whoever will win this championship wins it with all respect. Like, if Lewis is quicker and he wins it, all respect to him, fair game. If Max wins it on track because he's quicker, fair game. But please don't put any politic stuff in this race because we've seen it enough already. Toto Wolff, Christian Horner, Michael Masi, everyone, also the people on social media, people complaining about each other, swearing to each other because blah, blah, blah. I hope this race will be clean and finished on the line, and whoever wins it, fair game. Don't put any politics stuff in this race because it will kill me, I guess.
Yeah, let's hope there's no reliability or anything like that. Let's hope we get a fight to the end. There was concerns recently about the Red Bull power unit and the potential replacement as well. So they could potentially be on a knife edge. We'll never know about that, of course. But yeah, we've seen it in the past, and sportsmen will do whatever they want in terms of to get the big prizes. We've seen Schumacher, is it twice he's attempted and worked out. Once, I think was it Villeneuve where he went into the side of it and he said that didn't work, and I think he damaged the car, and he went off. And but we've seen it as well in Crashgate in the Singapore race in order to get Fernando the victory. We had let's hope there's no tactics behind the scenes calling in favors with other teams and stuff like that, and hopefully we get to see him wheel to wheel as well. That's what we want to see, a straight fight on the track. We don't want one car to come out the blocks and absolutely dominate. Mercedes do look really strong, but I think there's something about the night races. I think Red Bull could potentially be on for the pole position around here because they do fire up the tires a bit better in the cooler conditions, whereas Mercedes have always struggled with it, so they're a bit more kinder, especially on the rears. But yeah, just so much to look forward to. I think the driver's going to prefer the new layout of the circuit, and we're going to see a champion crowned next week. And I was so nervous going into Jeddah. Let's talk about Jeddah for a minute. Should it be on the calendar in terms of a racetrack? I feel it's dangerous. We're going to be back there in just over 3 months, I think it is. We're going to be back there once again. What changes need to be made for that circuit if it's going to be safe? We've seen already some injuries there in F2. What do you think, Wes?
The thing with Jeddah is, I think Jeddah is next level. I think Jeddah is even more dangerous than Monaco, honestly. I think Jeddah is a track. I think it's a good track for Formula 2, Formula 3. These cars are going slower. In terms of high-speed corners, they can't handle it. So I think in terms of overtaking and safety measures, I think the track will be better for lower rankings. I think Formula 1 is just too quick for Jeddah. But it's an awesome track to see. in qualifying, I think for the drivers in qualifying, Jeddah is one of the best tracks to drive on because it's so quick. Although the safety measures around Jeddah is, I think they did quite a good job with the barriers and the all the people around it. But I don't think Jeddah must be on a calendar for maybe 2 years.
Matt?
Yep. I think again, I think I said it the other day. I want to see another race at Jeddah before we jump the gun and say that it has to go. I think, like you say, there was that big crash in F2, but that wasn't anything to do with the circuit. That was somebody stood on the grid. And unfortunately, I think someone was just unsighted and ran into the back of them. As for the race at Jeddah, it's the first time at a new circuit. That tends to always promote carnage, especially at a street circuit. I mean, you could look at the first Singapore Grand Prix. That was chaos. And then ever since then, it's sort of quietened down a bit and actually is a pretty normally dull affair. I think I want to give it one more chance, especially with the new cars, and then I'll properly form an opinion on whether Jeddah deserves its place on the Formula One calendar. Yeah,
I feel that personally we shouldn't be going there. I feel it's too risky. I think we got away with it big time. We was all dreading that first lap kind of carnage. There can be so easily a blindsided car who's going to get T-boned on the exit if there is an incident. And we've got a big regulation change coming. There's going to be a lot of unknowns with the new concepts of cars. And I feel I was really worried for the driver's safety coming to this one, especially with Formula One and the nature of it and some of the more rookie drivers in particular. So personally, like some of the people commented on, I think a few of these kinks need to be straightened out around the circuit. So take away a few corners so you've got a bit more foresight and you can see incidents happening up ahead of you potentially. But I don't think it's a suitable racetrack. I think we've got next year and then they're going to move and make another purpose-built circuit somewhere else. But I personally feel very relieved after that race that everyone got out of their cars in one piece. And they live to fight another day. But yes, it will return in 3 months' time for the new season. Big regulation changes upcoming. It's been to and fro in Mercedes, Red Bull. They're throwing everything at it. Mercedes had their last update in Silverstone. They've really started to understand their package as well. The engine was one thing, Matt, but this rear wing, they've really unlocked some potential. Mercedes engineers once again, pulling out all the stops. We had DAS in the previous years. Now we've got this new concept around the ring. Even the kind of squat down nature of the not the rear wing itself, but the suspension when it exits a corner. We've seen it on some of the rears. It just sits down so much quicker and then lifts up as well when it needs to in the right time. But boys, we're going to be robbed, man, because these Red Bull and Mercedes, there's nothing to pick between them from one race to another. We saw Mexico, absolute domination from the Red Bull lads, and then we see a complete role reversal in terms of Sao Paulo. And now we're just going to flip the script. We're going to throw it up in the air and hopefully Williams win the championship next year for old Frank. Yeah. Latifi, the champ.
We don't know. It could happen. Nobody knows.
To be fair, Williams do quite well in regulation changes. If you look back through history, most of the time when there's a regulation change, Williams do quite well out of it. So who knows? Maybe they will. Maybe this year will be our year, or so they keep saying. Say it. Been saying it for the last 11 years, Rich, of me watching Formula One, and I'm not going to stop because one day we will be back and we will win a championship. I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm confident. All right.
We also say goodbye to a certain Kimi Raikkonen, the man who's brought us so much fun in terms of his racing. I think he could have been so much more successful as well. I think he should be at least a two-time champ. He was very unlucky in his, the McLaren days back then when he had a strong package, but some unreliability, which cost him. But he managed to get the title, was it 2009 in the Scarlet Ferrari, which was that the last championship, wasn't it?
2007. He won it, and last drivers' championship for Ferrari.
Yeah, 2007. Of course, it was Brawn 09, which is now Mercedes. But yeah, we say goodbye to Kimi. We also lose Giovinazzi, who's really he pulled out a great race the last time out. He was pulling out all sorts of moves. He put one on Fernando Alonso. No one does that on Fernando.
You have to have some big balls to go for Fernando. You know, Fernando will defend. We saw it in Hungary as well. Fernando will defend. He doesn't care who it is. He defended from Lewis. He's defending from anyone. So if you try to overtake no Fernando, I think if it happens, big balls,
Big balls missed.
big balls.
So in steps Guan Yu Zhou, which is again probably a kind of a money spinner move stepping in, but not ideal for the Alfa Romeo setup, having all changed there. Bottas will be, I think, a bit more comfortable being the team leader and developing that car, but he hasn't got the best teammate alongside him. Russell moving to Mercedes. He has to step up his game. And I say that, step up his game, Matt. Yeah, I know you're going to look at me, but in the Williams, he can afford to, have not such a great race and no one's going to notice it. But up alongside Lewis Hamilton, Bottas knows how this feels, okay? You're going up against the champ. You called him an 8-time champ earlier as well, Matt.
Did I?
You did. Yes, you did. That's what
Checo did it, didn't he?
No.
I've heard Checo say it before, so maybe it's all scripted.
So don't tempt fate, all right? But yeah, Russell has got a lot to do. I think it wouldn't be too bad to play second fiddle and to learn from Lewis. If he wins this year's championship, doesn't like next year's car, he could easily be off into the sunset, making his fashion, his music career, whatever it will be. So it's going to be a tough ask for him. But we say hello to Alex Albon as well, stepping into the Williams team, and great to see him back on the grid as well. Yeah, what are your thoughts on their movers and shakers in the next year? Who's going to hit the ground running, do you think?
I think Alex will make a big jump in Williams. Of course, in Red Bull, he did a good job in Red Bull. Not optimal. He really tried. He was better than Pierre Gasly, in my opinion. But I think he'll be in a good place in around Williams. Yeah, I think they will help him to get a better performance out of him, and he has less pressure in Williams. It's not a top team at the moment. So yeah, I think he'll be in good hands around Williams. Yeah. Yeah, and Guangzhou, money spender. I don't like it, honestly. I think there are a lot of good drivers in Formula 2, in Formula 3, also in IndyCar. And they don't get a seat in Formula 1 purely because of money. And that's just a shame. But yeah, that's at the end how it works. I guess money is the big winner around Formula 1. And yeah, he has the right to go for the seat. So yeah, I'll be really curious to see how I'll do in that team. Yeah.
Yep. I think I'll try and get through all of them, see if I forget any. First one, George Russell to Mercedes. That's the big one. I do agree with you, Rich, in terms of stepping up his game. I think that, particularly in the last few races, I don't know if you've noticed, he's not necessarily been doing bad. I just haven't heard any wow, that's good from George Russell in the Williams. Mr. Saturdays. He's made Q2 several times, but we haven't seen him in Q3 for a while. I know Williams won't be developing that car, of course. But also in the race, it's kind of not seen anything special. I know he got out qualified by Latifi a few weeks back for the first time. He was beaten by a teammate at Williams, which was a big thing. So yeah, we will need to see him step up that game to really take it to Lewis. Who else have we got then? We've got Alex Albon coming back. Great news for him. I think he was, with regards to his Red Bull career, he was put into that seat really early on in his career, wasn't he? It was halfway through his first season in Formula 1, and he's just been sent straight into Red Bull. And he did a decent job, I think, considering the circumstances. I think he did all right. The issue for me with Albon was, it was in that second season. It was okay, this is where, if you're going to be a big talent, this is now where you need to deliver, because you've had time in that Red Bull seat to get used to it. And I think in 2020, he just didn't. He picked up a couple podiums, but he certainly wasn't anywhere near the level that I think he needed to be. And people, I know we do say it, I think people say it for Gasly, people say it for Albon, they were put into that Red Bull seat too early. You do have to remember, Verstappen got put into his Red Bull seat after 1 season and 4 races. They're not shy to putting a driver in to their big team early in their career. And Max got there and he delivered straight away. Gasly never really delivered. Albon only sort of delivered. And even Checo has not delivered to the levels of Max. I think he's done better than Albon and Gasly did. I think he's won a race. He's picked up several podiums. But yeah, I think it's good for Albon now to be back at Williams. He can rebuild himself and hopefully find himself in a top team very soon. Final one, Guan Yu Zhou. Yeah, money talks. That's all that needs to be said, isn't it? I think he's not a bad driver, Guan Yu Zhou, but he's certainly, there are better Formula 2 drivers out there, or drivers in Formula E or in IndyCar, like Noah says. And I just think that Oscar Piastri is a better driver. I know he's got ties to I think it's Alpine he's got ties to, but he's delivered a great rookie season in F2. Guan Yu Zhou's been there for 3 years and he's got a few wins. Not enough, in my opinion, to justify, let's go, Guan Yu Zhou, Alfa Romeo, your time has come. Not for me.
No, and hopefully money becomes less of a topic. We've got the budget restrictions coming into place and stuff like that as well. There's a lot more sponsorship coming through, all thanks to Netflix and all of these things. There's a lot more attention on there. I still feel that if it was free to air, F1 would attract a lot more interest around the world as well. But that's a subject for another day. But yeah, let's hope that's not too much of an issue. Of course, next year, if you finish first in the championship, you're going to have the least amount of resources. And if you finish last, you're going to have the most amount. And that is time. And that is money as well. There will be exceptions to the rule in terms of your driver salaries. And I think a few key people within your establishment, there'll always be ways to get around that. The top teams will do it, but it's a climax to the season is about to happen. Abu Dhabi is only a few days away. Who's going to hit the ground running? Who's going to come across the line as the champion? What are your thoughts? What are your predictions? Give us the top 3 for the next round, boys.
I don't want to.
Do it.
I don't want to.
I don't want to, man.
I'll throw. Okay. I'm gonna say that the winner of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in 2021 this weekend is going to be the one and only Valtteri Bottas.
Leave it there. Leave it there. You don't know who's second. Okay, you can leave it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thinking about last year, as the Flying Dutchman, Max will win.
He's just jinxed it for all the Verstappen fans.
No. I think no, I'll be serious. I think Valtteri. No. So I'll guess the Red Bull guys and the Mercedes guys because the fight is between them two. I'll guess Valtteri P4, Checo P3, and then Lewis or Max P1, P2.
Okay, I like
because
the way you've done
these two guys are just quicker than everyone else the entire season. Every time, every track, they pull out like 5 to 10 seconds in 5 laps and they're gone. And I think that will happen this weekend as well.
Okay, I think they're going to come together. It's written in the stars. We haven't had all this drama all season for it to end with a clean, straight fight. And I'm going to say neither of them are going to finish on the podium. I'm going to say it's going to be my gut instinct is it's going to be Bots, it's going to be Per, and it's going to be Sai. That's what I'm going my top 3. I think one of them will finish in the points. I don't know who it will be, but I think there's going to be some incident. They're going to have some damage on the cars. I think one of them might not finish the race. I don't know who, but let's just wait and see, shall we, boys? We're going to meet again. We'll meet again on Sunday night, shall we? Or we'll have this conversation all over again. I might be drowning my sorrows, or I might be celebrating and spraying the beer around. But whatever it is, they've put on one hell of a performance this season. They've delivered. We'll be looking back on this for years to come. We'll be telling our kids, our grandkids, all about this moment and these two protagonists. And it's been a beautiful story. F1, this is why we love you. We love you, Lewis, Max. Thank you for making it very difficult for him as well. But maybe the best man win as well.
Yeah, I fully agree.
Let's hope for a nice, no drama, no politics, straight fight Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yeah.
We can pray.
Boring. Well, thanks for joining us. We've talked for way too much time. We always try to do a quick one and it turns into the longest one ever. So Noah, it's been an honor to have you on. Hopefully, if you're free on Sunday, I don't know what your schedule is. Let us know. We'll try and
Always
get some post-race action whilst it's still fresh in the minds. Matt as well. Hope to see you on Sunday. Thank you for joining us. And the next time we speak, we're going to know who it is.
Cheers.
cheers.